Hey everybody, this is Chubby Funster. I'm going to be continuing our solo play today for my upcoming campaign setting Terra Invictus for ShadowDark. We ended the last video in Hex 3228 facing three wolves that are watching us from afar. Now we're going to start by firing on them with ranged weapons to try to drive them away. Since they're not engaging us, I'm going to allow each member of the party to take a surprise action before I roll initiative. Gledrion is the party leader, but he has no ranged weapon, so he's going to sit this one out. Boff takes a shot with his crossbow and misses. Elbeb takes a shot with his longbow and hits for 8 damage. He has a +1 damage bonus, which is a huge deal in ShadowDark because most bonuses apply only to the to-hit roll. Niran takes a shot and misses. He's not a good shot, so that's to be expected. Zormesh casts Magic Missile with advantage and succeeds. He deals 3 damage, which is enough to kill the injured wolf. So I'm going to let everyone roll initiative and allow the wolves to escape on their initiative count, since it said they wanted to leave. It looks like Zormesh is going to win initiative. In ShadowDark, initiative is resolved in a clockwise rotation from the highest roll, so the wolves will actually go right after Zormesh. So he decides not to risk failing his spellcasting check and holds his fire. He can't kill a wolf with magic missile. And the wolves run away, so the combat is over. Since the wolves were outside of their lair, they only have a 50% chance of carrying treasure. So I'm going to roll a d6, and a high roll will be a yes, and a low roll will be a no. Nope, no treasure. Regardless, I'm going to award some luck tokens here. Because this is solo play, I'm going to embellish a bit, and I'm going to say that Elbeb howled like a wolf before he fired his bow and dealt all that damage. And I'm going to say that Zoramesh's hands were charged up with magical energy, and that's what caused the wolves to flee in terror. So back up here on the map, some viewers suggested that I head for Skalice, so I'm going to head north into 3128. However, that is a 4-hour journey, and I'm going to need to make a con check to avoid exhaustion. And then I'm going to have to check for random encounters every hour. And then I'm going to have to resolve the camp event icon in this hex because night is approaching. And since the river flows to the west into 3227, I'm going to have to make a navigation check to go north. So this is going to be risky, but let's do it. So let's start with the con checks. Now, none of my characters has a really bad con, so we could probably do this. Since this is a flat plane, I'm only going to assign a DC of 9. Crap. So Boff the Halfling failed. Now, ShadowDark's a bit unclear on the consequence of failing this roll. I'm going to interpret it as you get disadvantage on everything until you rest. So Boff was very winded and wheezing from pushing through the night, but he made it. Next, we have to check for random encounters every hour 4 times. This is a d6 roll with a random encounter happening on a 1. So we only got 1 encounter. That's lucky. And we find out that it is an abandoned linen pavilion tent covered in Botchnian colors. So that's helpful, but if we take this and we run into Botchnian knights or soldiers later, they might see that as really suspicious. So I'm going to take it. Elbeb, the elf fighter, has 4 open gear slots, so I'm going to let him haul it as a 5 gear slot item, and we're going to continue on. And next we have to resolve the camp event. So it looks like there are a lot of mosquitoes in this hex. Now, fortunately, we're only here for 4 hours, so we don't have to make this check to avoid it. But we did see the swarms, and we know that there's a danger here, so we can note that for later. This hex is really dangerous. It's deadly, it has mosquitoes, it's inhabited by wolves. We've got a lot of problems here. You can see why this serves as the frontier of Bochnia, and we can only wonder what terrible danger lies on the far side of this river. And now we're finally able to get out of this hex. We just have to make a navigation check to get into 3128. This is an intelligence check against a DC appropriate for the terrain, so I'm going to assume 9 because this is the open plain. Gledrion is our leader. He's going to make the roll even though he doesn't have the best intelligence. And he succeeds. So we cross into 3128 around midnight. And we still find ourselves in swampy terrain, unfortunately. That's not good. This hex is difficult, meaning that it will take twice as long to cross it as usual, full day. It's hot and humid. It stinks. We all smell like wet ass at this point, but before we can rest, we have to roll for a random encounter. Ah, goblins. Okay, let's do this. 4 goblins and a goblin shaman. Now, luckily, they're foraging for berries and not lying in ambush, so there won't be a surprise round. Although you can't surprise goblins, they could surprise us. Now, we need to roll for encounter distance, and we got 20 to 30 feet. That's not good. So let's check their reaction to see how they are. 3. Galedrion has a +2 charisma bonus, but that's still going to give us a hostile result. There's going to definitely be a fight. So let's roll initiative. And even with disadvantage from exhaustion, Boff still wins initiative. Well done, buddy. He's going to use his halfling ability to go invisible for 3 rounds. So let's pop up a counter to track that. And Invisible Boff fires on one of the goblins, but unfortunately he misses due to disadvantage from the exhaustion. And Elbeb also attacks, trying to knock out one of the goblins, and hits for 6 damage. That is a kill. It's now Niren's turn, and he runs into melee with his club, shouting praise for Kunai, and he hits for 2 damage. This is not enough to take out the goblin, unfortunately. But Zoramesh sees an opportunity here, and he casts Magic Missile, and he succeeds with advantage, and he does 4 damage. He takes out the goblin. And now we continue clockwise down to the goblins. We haven't killed enough of them to force a morale check yet, so they will be able to attack us. The first goblin is going to attack Niren because he just saw him run over and kill his friend, and he attacks for 12, that's a hit, and does 3 damage, almost killing Niren. So now the Goblin Shaman casts Stink Bomb on Elbeb, who he thinks is the greater threat here, and he succeeds. That hits for 5 damage. That is enough to take out Elbeb. He now has to make a death timer roll, but thankfully he does have a +1 con bonus. Ooh, lowest possible result. So we have to get him stabilized by round 3 or he's dead. And the final goblin goes after Niren as well because he's in melee with his ally, but he misses, thankfully. And that brings us back up to Gledrion to end out the round. He is the last one in the clockwise rotation. And he tries to heal Elbeb with Cure Wounds and succeeds. And he brings Elbeb back with full hit points. That's great. So it's a new round now. Boff is up. He's going to take another crossbow shot at the goblin, but he misses again. Disadvantage from exhaustion is really tough to deal with. Elbeb is feeling great, charged up with magical energy, so he takes a shot at the goblin as well and hits again. This time for 4 damage, not enough to kill him. Damn. Niren sees an opportunity, swings at the wounded goblin, and he hits for 1 damage, but that's all he needed. The goblin is dead. And that triggers a morale check. And I'm going to have the shaman make it because he's the leader. He has a +2 wisdom bonus, but he still fails. So they're going to run away at the first opportunity they get. Zoramesh hears the shaman telling the goblin to run away, and he tries to get off a magic missile, but even with advantage, the magic missile fails. He could use a luck token here, but he decides to hold it for a life or death situation and lets the goblins run away. That's 3 goblins down. So let's roll for treasure. All right, only one of them had treasure. Let's just roll off the ShadowDark level 0 to 3 treasure table, see what we get. And we get a 42. It's an obsidian statuette of Shun the Vile, which is a ShadowDark deity. Let's transform that into a chaotic deity in Terra Invictus and say that it is Hakon, the god of curses. So this statuette was probably used in the nightly vexation rituals that Hakon demands of his followers. So not a huge treasure, but it's worth another XP. So the PCs can now set up their camp using the pavilion tent that they found. Now it's an unsafe hex, so they only have to check for random encounters every 3 hours, which is way better than 1 hour in the previous hex. So let's make 2 random encounter checks to see if anything happens while they rest. Darn. So we're going to have to make 1 encounter roll. Let's see what it is. Oh, okay, lucky. We found a woven reed pouch. Let's say one of the PCs was out doing watch and they found it in the grass, and there's sandarak inside. Now, sandarak is a pleasant smelling resin similar to frankincense, but not as aromatic. It's used in a lot of varnishes in medieval furniture and woodworking, in boats, for instance. This find is worth another 25 GP and an XP. That brings us up to 3 experience points in our adventure so far. We're now going into our 4th day, and it's going to take the entire day to cross this hex towards Skalice, and we'll arrive just 1 remaining ration for each PC in our backpack, so we almost ran out of food. But from here, we can load up on food and head either straight towards the Smoking Plains, or we can head up to Hoolgate and then turn south. Hit me up with your ideas in the comments. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned to see what happens.